Hey kids, Dean with Crypto the WonderDog. So we had a great couple of weeks. Kind of taking it easy here at the show, doing catching up on some other things, working on some other projects. But most importantly, is our North American Sports and Blockchain Conference that we're furiously working on. But man, it has been really hard getting the people excited about this when it's not your baby. If it's somebody else's baby, it's not as cute, it's not as adorable, and when it craps, no one wants to be around to clean that up. So when you're the mother of a brainchild, of a product of your imagination, something you thought was a great idea, and you get other people excited about it, and then when it takes crap, you're the one kind of left cleaning it up. So I've been doing some crap cleanup for the last couple of weeks on the North American Sports and Blockchain Conference. But if you're on the fence, if you're looking to be part of it, come on in. It's about time. Write a check. Check it out. Go to the website nasbc.co. We've had a lot of people inquire about it. A lot of people excited about it, but it's come along pretty good. But it's been hot here, man. If you're in the I think in the northern hemisphere, close to the United States, it has just been unbearably hot. Just pouring sweat at night. Get the fans on, but they just don't help, man. It has been really, really hot. So I had a good show with Christian Kameir today at Sustany Capital, and even walking over there, carrying this equipment over there to Sustany, which is just a stone's throw away from the Crypto the WonderDog doghouse. I guess we can call that now, the doghouse. We're the doghouse, the Crypto doghouse. So it's not too far away, but man, just walking from the car to his office, just broke a sweat. Just started like I'd been out in the sun hoeing cotton, like I was back in West Texas in the middle of summer. Man, I remember those days, getting up at 5 a.m. riding out with the guys in the hose, and but not those kind of hose, with the sharp edges on them, and I almost lost a thumb one time. I was having a hoe race with a buddy, and his hoe came down on my thumb and almost cut it off. I got the scar to kind of prove it there, but we didn't try that anymore. We didn't race our hoes after that. Kept the hose on the ground and cutting the weeds like they should have been. So today at Sustany Capital, Christian kind of explained decentralized autonomous organizations, and we have a PowerPoint or a PDF, whatever your choice is. We'll put that in the show notes so you can download that and check it out. But this is a show I did with Christian, good buddy. Super cool guy, and if you guys have any questions on what an ICO is, or a wallet, or an exchange, he would be the man to take you through the 101 of what those are. We did a great show called Blockchain 101. You can look that up here at the Crypto the WonderDog show, YouTube and iTunes show. Also want to give a little shout out to our buddies at Blockchain Radio. Blockchain.radio. They have been picking up our daily show, which is Block Bites, presented by Dash, which is about a 3-minute show that we do every day. Kind of the news, just a quick wrap up, the headline news of the day, and the biggest gainers, and also the top coins of the day. Not what you should buy. It's just what the coin market cap said the top 5 cryptocurrencies trading were, and then the ones that had the biggest gains for the day. And you'll never hear us advise you to buy any coin ever, except Bitcoin. Buy it. Buy as much as you can. All right, here's our show with Christian, with the decentralized autonomous organizations at Sustany Capital. You guys ready to start the show? All right, let's start the show. Hiatus from the Sustany Capital Studios here in beautiful downtown Newport Beach. We're back on the air.
We're not downtown.
Downtown? It's
close. We're oceanfront.
Oceanfront in Newport Beach. And
you see the ocean there.
Yeah. And you guys made a hearty attempt at creating a studio with some, I see some very expensive lighting.
A hardy and failed attempt.
But I didn't want you guys to overshadow my production quality, so I'm going to have you guys send that back and get something a little less expensive.
We should have asked someone who knows about these things.
We need to
help Microsoft improve, apparently.
Yeah, we've got to get this DAO open. So explain what DAO is.
It's a decentralized autonomous organization. And as far as I'm concerned, the most important feature of blockchain.
The most important feature. Okay, yeah, because there's going back and forth about centralized and decentralized. Is it good? Is it bad? It needs to be overseen by an entity. Yes, no. Depends on what it is. Right.
Depends on what it is and who's doing the overseeing.
Yeah. Who's doing the overseeing? Yes. All right. We're just exporting this out here real quick. We'll cut all this crap out.
We get crap in our PowerPoint. But can you make sure that in the future we don't have crap in PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Or call Microsoft about it. I assume it was Microsoft putting the crap in, not me, right?
Yeah. Where'd that end up going? There it is. DAO. Okay.
You made it a PDF. Is that how you want it?
Yes.
I think you just killed my one animated GIF.
Yeah, it won't show up on this for some stupid reason. I don't know what it is, but
okay.
It's very frustrating.
MacBook Pro. What's the Pro for? Profane.
It's just got lots of power, lots of processing power for stuff that you think you need sometimes. Okay, top cam, bam. Okay, all right. So we're back on here. You guys came up with the DAO, which stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organizations. So let's talk about that.
Yes, indeed. So first of all, what we need to do is kind of point out what it isn't or what it wasn't, because there was this one big thing that happened in July 2016 when a token was being issued that was called the DAO, and this particular DAO was meant to be a decentralized autonomous organization, and specifically was meant to be a venture fund.
Okay.
But so in essence, as with venture fund, I would almost refer to it as a meta DAO. But anyway, so it took the name, and unfortunately for most people, that's now what they associate with a DAO. That's the one failed attempt. And it failed not because no one was contributing. To the opposite, actually, there were 11,000 people that put quite a bit of Ethereum behind this idea, so they ended up back then raising more than 11 million.
Wow.
Ether at a time when Ether was $13.
Oh my God. Wow.
So that was back then 150 million US dollars if they had kept it and converted it into fiat currency, and if it was just sitting there today, it would be almost $5 billion, which would, as far as I know, put it in the top 5% of all venture funds in the world.
Unbelievable.
So anyway, as most people know from being in the space for a little while, this experiment in a way failed because part of the contract that the German programmer created had a deficiency which allowed a hacker to jump into the wallet and started to drain it significantly before it was discovered. And because it was such a large amount that, and so many people contributed to it, that a discussion ensued between the main development team at the time, and the decision was made to hard fork Ethereum at this point in time.
Really? Okay.
And so basically no one actually lost their funds at the end of the day, so the hard fork meant we turned it back in time. But it also incidentally created what we now know as Ethereum Classic. Ethereum Classic came out of the DAO hack. So it was those miners or those people that were running the previous code, so that included the DAO hack, that decided, no, we think this particular chain should survive, and it still exists to this day.
Wow. All right. Very cool.
So a little anecdote, but again, just to clarify, this is what most people think the DAO is, and that's all they kind of associate with that. So then more importantly, why is the DAO important? And in my mind, that's because the phone rings. Because of what we have today as far as the organization of corporations.
Yeah.
So if you jump to slide 3.
Okay, for-profit
corporations. Okay. And so that's roughly describing the state of corporations today. So we got a couple of different stakeholders, and I'm by no means wanting to show all of them, but the large groups are, you got the operators, so the people that actually work inside of the company and come up with the ideas, set up the initial articles or whatever structure you have to incorporate it. You got your employees, you got clients usually that you service, you got users, they might be different from clients, and if you have other people putting money in, you likely also have shareholders. So what's important to note is that all of these different entities, all of these different groups that we're showing here, and again, there's more of those, have different interests, right? So employees typically are interested in getting paid, right? And paid well, maybe not work all that much. But again, I'll leave it at that. And clients typically will have the interest of receiving the best product at the best price. Users, depending on if they're paying for the service, have the expectation that still the service, even if they're not paying for it, is decent, reliable, and useful to them. And shareholders oftentimes are just interested in their dividends and or seeing the stock price go up.
Yeah.
Right? And so inherently, these different level of interest create conflicts, right? And so we see this every day. And some of the most obvious ones are the publicly traded companies that oftentimes work for the quarter results. And by that I mean the executive team works towards quarterly results, making them look good for the shareholders because their compensation is tied to that. And that's just one example. But one of the more pertinent examples, as we are all users on the World Wide Web, is it created this interesting dichotomy to where the user oftentimes is being treated as a product. What I mean by this. So this particular graphic shows you from the perspective of a search engine, in this case Google.
Okay.
So Google looks at your behavior. You got XYZ emails, you got XYZ many devices that you're using with their software on that, and so forth. So you got logins, you got commercial activity, and this is who you are to Google. You're a collection of data. And this collection of data is what they're selling to their actual clients. But because to Google, you're not the client. You're not paying them anything. No. The advertiser that they are selling this data to is actually paying for your quote-unquote free service. So the service is actually not free.
No.
You're paying with your time and attention that they are diverting to the advertisers. And you might have noticed that on a lot of search results for now, the first results page is now entirely occupied with paid advertising.
Oh yeah,
specifically.
It's all, I'm trying to look for something very specific to what I'm looking for.
And you have to scroll by everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Google's case, that's more, I think, than $6 million an hour that they make from that. So Google,
$6 million an hour.
Yeah. So, and it shows you it's not in your interest, right?
No.
You're the user. You're just looking for the best result, but. It's really difficult as a for-profit corporation, which they are, and on top of that, they are publicly traded. It's very difficult for them at this point in time to change their business model, right? So when they initially started out, and by they, I mean the two founders, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, they actually wrote down in their initial paper, and if you want to call it a white paper, that would be pretty accurate, that advertising can never be deployed for a search engine because it would inherently sway those results. And then obviously they took on funding, and then by virtue of that they were forced to eventually identify a business model, and the only one that was available to them in their mind was adopting advertising. So they deployed advertising, then they went public. To this day, though, if you go to their website, you'll see that the motto is we want to provide we want to organize the world's information and make it more useful. But you probably will be less successful in doing so when you make this particular purpose advertising powered, and it's inherently dishonest, right? Because like any for-profit corporation, their main purpose is to increase shareholder value, and has to be, right? They'd be fired if they don't. So this is to me a very typical example as an outcome for a for-profit corporation. And you see similar tendencies all across developed nations. So if you move to the next slide, you killed my animated graphic, but that's okay. So as of late, I got a little more insights into our political landscape and how do you win elections. And I actually found out that there's a price for voter participation and how many votes you're getting.
Really?
So political consultants can pretty much tell you, okay, I can get you 1,500 voters for this amount of door hangers and this amount of volunteers and this amount of so and so. And
really?
this is why that's why we were in the room. This is the contribution we're looking for you, because we're thinking that's getting us these many voters for this particular purpose or this particular person.
Yeah.
So in that sense, citizens have become a commodity, right? So that's another outcome of our current implementation of democracy, at least in most of the Western world, but specifically in the United States. So then the last example that I want to bring before we actually dive into what a decentralized autonomous organization can do is this current phenomenon of sharing economy. So a lot of times there's a confusion and people refer to this as kind of the peer-to-peer economy. You'll find this all over. So the idea of you can borrow a car from me and can pay me directly, but what oftentimes is being missed in the scenarios, there's for-profit corporations behind this, right? So even your Uber app is not just your Uber app. I mean, there's 12,000 employees behind it that do something and they make a living from doing so. And same with Airbnb has 9,000 employees, and they also all make a living from that. So it's not a peer-to-peer application, even though perceptually this is what's happening. But it's actually not. It's a highly, highly centralized system. Everybody is going to that same application, me as the user and you as the purveyor of the right or purveyor of that service or purveyor of that room in that case.
Car, whatever.
But Airbnb will take their 12-15% cut. Uber will take their cut out of it. So in essence, they're actually in a way worse than what we have now in terms of commercial activity, where inherently you're always paying 2-3% to someone in the middle, which is usually the credit card provider or bank.
Yes.
But in this case, you actually have to add those fees. They go on top of it. So That's why this concept of a decentralized autonomous organization is so interesting to me. Because a decentralized autonomous organization is basically made up of smart contract. And the first ever decentralized autonomous organization was Bitcoin. So there's no Bitcoin corporation. No one set up a company to run Bitcoin. Someone, supposedly Satoshi Nakamoto, released some source code and started creating the currency. As a result, people decided, oh, that's a good idea. I joined this idea either by actively contributing to the source code, or I start mining the actual currency, so I participate in that ecosystem by providing computing power, or I start accepting this in my particular business and I start buying it with dollars, yen, euro, and you got a lot of exchanges supplying this now. And now you can buy your Expedia ticket with a Bitcoin if you want to. I wouldn't suggest it, but you can also, and that's a little log there, you can also just buy it and hodl it, so and participate in this way. But again, there's no central authority behind it that gets a cut. There's fees involved if you transact on it, but the fees stay within the system, means the miners get it when they actually transact on it. But it's much less than the Visa network. And at this point in time, I think it's a good time to point out that there have been a lot of articles pushing this idea that this is very uneconomical, and there's a lot of power being wasted on this proof of work concept, and there's a lot of machines running for no particular purpose.
Yeah, they're running night and day, and are they generating more money than the cost to run the machine?
Yeah, so that's the principle, but so there has been a lot of noise in popular media that this is not economical, not environmentally friendly, essentially.
Environmentally friendly.
And so the idea being that, hey, we have a very well working Visa system as an example. That's a typical example that's always been cited. And this is way more economical and supports way more transactions. So what's not being mentioned at this point in time is that, well, Visa has 12,000 employees. They probably most of them went to work today, drove their cars there, and sit in front of a computer. So at that point in time, if you start doing the math, you're already at the same energy consumption. But then obviously there's also MasterCard and American Express, and all of those entities also don't work in a silo. So they don't work without actual banks.
Of course not.
And so I think JP Morgan employs 250,000 people. So
it's quite a footprint.
So Bitcoin employs exactly 0 people. There's close to 10,000 nodes right now. For the most part, I assume they run independently. There's larger data centers that require some oversight, obviously, but I would argue that to achieve the same utility using the legacy technologies, you're spending several orders of magnitude more energy than what's being achieved right now with Bitcoin, or for that part, with any of the other networks, with any of the other blockchains that provide the transfer of value.
Wow.
So at the heart, as I touched earlier, of any decentralized organization or new blockchain is the smart contract. And I'm using, to make this visible, usually a vending machine of sorts.
Okay.
So a vending machine works pretty much like a smart contract, which means you put something in, you push a button, and something comes out, right? And in that same way, smart contracts are basically functioning identical. So you write the logic into your smart contract. You say, okay, this particular action should happen if someone sends, i.e. 10 Bitcoin to this particular address. And the most simple form, obviously, is always the exchange of money, and where it says, okay, if you send this to this address, you get XYZ tokens back, right? So that's the typical smart contract that you're executing when you participate in an ICO. That's self-executing. So that's a very small smart contract, but every cryptocurrency in and of itself is a smart contract.
Okay.
So the way you extend this is with a function called oracles. So there's a number of different kind of oracles. So there's software, hardware, inbound, outbound oracles. And what they do is they communicate with the blockchain through real-world instances. So a typical example for a hardware oracle would be a weather station. So the weather station reports a certain temperature, a certain wind chill, I guess, and
barometer.
Yeah. And the smart contract can then take that information and execute some software on it, i.e. close the window, turn on the AC, whatever it might be. So that would be an example of hardware. And then other oracles will, i.e. just read RSS feeds.
Okay.
And then take that real-world information, maybe after consensus algorithm, where they decide, okay, it came from 5 different sources, one of them being Reuters, the other one being the New York Times. So this particular event actually happened, and based on that information, we're executing something on a smart contract. So that's the function of oracles. And
so it's kind of like you used to write code, didn't you, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
So in BASIC, I remember when I was BASIC, if then, right?
Yes, that's the basic function.
Blah, 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 then blah, blah, blah. So that's a smart contract.
Yeah, and obviously it's very important for something that's decentralized, that doesn't have any employees running around, to be able to react to actual world experiences or occurrences.
Wow.
And so that's why I made a separate slide to mention that, because people might not know how this could be relevant in the future. That's why it's important to understand this particular concept. And so now there's actually companies that start building this into hardware, where the basic principles are already built into the chip itself.
Really?
So the basic business logic is built into the chip, so that you can say, hey, these particular sensor status should report this particular action back.
Yeah.
I.e., one application that's being favored and used as an example quite often is the idea that machine-to-machine communication might require some compensation of sorts, to where certain machines might have to buy, let's say, energy. So if you're an autonomous car, you at one point in time have to recharge. So you might need to go to a charging station, and the charging station will charge this automatically without any attendant. It would just realize, okay, this is another entity, it has coin, and this is charged a certain way. So this is the coin that's being charged. And so that's already built in on the IC level.
That's amazing.
So there's one company back in Germany, and those are actually the guys that came up with the original DAO with that BC concept that then failed. So they moved on and built this particular platform to where you can build those service layers on top of the hardware. So they built an integrative gateway for the public blockchain, where you can build applications, A, as a hardware provider, and then B, as a developer on top of it. So the next application you'll see for that is, for example, and that's why I brought up the Airbnb case. You can assign a smart lock with the properties that you're looking for. So the properties being, this particular person gets a private key. He uses that private key on that lock, and that releases whatever many coins to my wallet.
Okay.
So no Airbnb needed, no Visa card needed, no nothing needed. You have a smart lock. And through an application, you program your smart lock, and the smart lock gets paid, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's all that's needed at that point in time.
Wow. And do you think that another Airbnb company is going to come along?
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Okay.
There's going to be many people doing
And
exactly
an Uber
those
type company?
Those logs are being manufactured right now.
Wow.
So why would I pay Airbnb 15% if I can just do it directly? I mean, their platform for marketing might be useful to some extent.
Yeah, they do have a big reach. Yeah.
But then again, it seems to be a reasonable expectation that someone will put a platform together that works without a corporation behind it, that has a couple of thousand employees that need to make a living. Because the value that's being added is not that great at one point in time. Right? So once the platform is built, once the devices are built, once the payment functions are built, you don't need all that much customer service anymore. Yeah, you need some probably intermediation at some point in time if things
people bust your stuff up. And,
if things don't work out. But my expectation is, and we'll get to that there will be tools for doing so as well. Also decentralized. So, and this is what actually the next project that I wanted to point out is about. So Aragon was a project that raised 275,000 Ether at the time, and it was about $90.
Oh, wow.
It took them 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Yeah, and so that was last year in May. And so they probably have a good war chest. At the time, it was 25 million. So their war chest is probably like 50 million at this point in time.
Wow.
And so their project aims to disintermediate the creation and maintenance of organizational structures. And what you see here is exactly what I was referring to earlier. So in the case where you have a dispute, right, you can introduce that into this particular structure, and it will be intermediated there. So there's no need for an underlying entity where you have customer support and then on whatever policies they come up with, they decide that this was just or unjust and there's something owed. But it's written completely into code with trusted people that are being validated. And so these apps are slowly rolling out. This is still version 0.5 actually. But eventually you'll be able to create your own organization for whatever purpose you'll need. So if this is for a platform, for the purpose of dispute resolution, or it is actually to run something like the decentralized autonomous VC that we were trying to create. So you will be able to do that. So then the one point I was pointing out earlier was that right now the idea is that we're treating our population like a commodity. So there's one project in particular, there's more than one, but one in particular that's trying to solve this by creating a DAO that provides a platform for what they call liquid democracy. So in this particular case, you would be voting on anything that concerns you, and you would put your money behind it, and you can create the new purposes online, and anybody in the world can participate.
Really? Wow, look at that. A planetary commons of peers.
It's still in its infancy, but eventually we'll hope you will see more direct democracy using these kind of tools.
And this is a website, Democracy Earth?
So you would download this, an app. So we would actually, the way that you run this right now is, unfortunately, because it runs on the blockchain, that's the main piece, always, right, in these particular occasions. So it needs what's called a runner. So a runner right now is, i.e. your MetaMask.
Okay.
So you need to install MetaMask, need to install the application, and that's how you make sure that these transactions are being recorded, are immutable, and verifiable.
Okay, so I'm using MetaMask. So how would I use that?
You download the application, and then you basically authenticate yourself running MetaMask. It's running on Ethereum.
Okay.
So just like your decentralized exchange, for that matter.
And this is this is a web-based app. Not a phone app, right?
It's a blockchain-based app, that's utilizing your browser.
On your computer, not your computer, not your phone.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So in summary, what we're creating using a DAO as a totally new operating system, how to look at organizational structures. So you don't need centralized functions anymore, right? So you can decentralize every single function. You don't need a middleman anymore, and you can put this into an organizational structure. So where everybody simply by holding part of that particular entity gets certain rights that are immutably written into those contracts. So you see what you're getting, basically.
Okay.
And so, in conclusion, what you could do in this particular case, so looking back at all the problems that for-profit corporations create, you could create a new type of search engine where marketing is not the end-all be-all, where it doesn't dictate what you're showing the user, but you're showing the user what he/she wants to actually see, and you get rewarded for providing the best service rather than a derivative. So the idea being that it allows you to align the interests of all players. So just like the example of Bitcoin has showed us.
And not to jump off the subject here, but when you were saying that whoever created Bitcoin and they created that specific blockchain, it just runs itself. It doesn't need somebody or a company running that.
Correct. And at the heart is the smart contract, which is an idea that Nick Szabo came up with in '94 already. And that's, by the way, why a lot of people out there think that Nick is probably
really
Satoshi. Yeah, because
really?
He came up with the one of the core principles that make up Bitcoin.
And
a long time ago.
There's only going to be so many. Like was 20 million? Is that what?
21 million Bitcoins.
21 million Bitcoin. How does it shut itself off after 21 million?
Oh, it doesn't. It just stops issuing new, but the code is already written.
Okay.
So it's not shutting it off. Miners will still be rewarded for the transactions. Remember, so right now, so on average, about every 10 minutes, a new block is being created, and the miner gets, the winning miner gets 12.5 Bitcoin, plus the transaction fees.
12.5 Bitcoin?
At the moment, yeah.
Really?
And then over the next, I forgot what the timing is, but I think it's 210,000, every 210,000 blocks, this number halves. So at that point in time, it's going to be, 6.25, I think, right?
Wow.
But again, plus transaction fees. So at some point in time, and that's a long ways out, no more new Bitcoins will be created. However, the miners will still make money from the transaction fees.
Okay, so even after all the Bitcoins are mined, they'll still make money from the transactions.
Exactly.
So the people who are investing into the mining software or mining hardware,
right,
they're still going to be able to make money even though they're not building Bitcoins anymore or
correct
mining Bitcoins.
They still get the fee.
They're still going to get fees.
Yes.
So this can go on
in perpetuity, yes. Whereas, again, a lot obviously can change. Once Lightning Network actually gets deployed, if it will ever get deployed, a lot of the dynamics will change. And maybe those ICs will be repurposed for something else.
Amazing. Didn't know that. Learned something new. Yeah, I thought that as soon as they were the last one, all the machines just shut off.
No, someone still needs to create those transaction records.
Yeah, because they still have to move.
That's the main point. The main point is not created. Well, I guess if you're a miner, then the main point is to earn your 12.5 Bitcoin, I guess. But the main function is actually to record the transactions. Transactions carry fees.
Unbelievable. Wow. Okay. So, that kind of wraps up the DAO. And
there's surprisingly little in terms of literature and movement.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was always actually it's the most interesting subject in the space. Much more interesting than the cryptocurrency piece, but it's still very early, and I think someone will pick up where the original DAO failed. And we'll see many applications coming out on top of that principle.
Are you going to be talking about this anywhere?
Yeah.
Speaking on that.
I think Forbes will publish an article on that topic that I wrote probably next week.
Okay. And we're at the 11th or 12th of July right now?
Yes. So it should be coming out
like the 12th.
17th,
okay.
19th, yeah.
17th or 19th. So that'll be on the stands, or that'll be on online?
It's in the finance section online. I don't think they're going to print it. They may. We'll see.
Okay. Very cool, man. And then what else? What's the next event that you're going to be involved with?
Need to look over there. well, yeah, we'll be sponsoring BlockCon in October.
BlockCon. Okay.
It's a 2-day event in Los Angeles. We'll do some rating for initial coin offerings. So we just started promoting this a little bit so that applicants send us their papers.
Yeah.
But we grade papers every day here. So.
You grade papers? Yeah. Get your red Sharpie. All right. Well, good talk, man. What are we? What's going to be coming up down the pipeline for us here on the show?
What's coming up? What do you want to talk about?
Oh man, there's so many things to talk about. I'm kind of leaning on you to give me the education.
Well, I have been asked to weigh in on the idea of blockchain in retail. So it's something.
Yes,
I'm working on at the moment. It's a big topic.
Yeah,
and so I need to get a handle on it. And once I do, I'll try to share an outline that's sensible.
Yeah, and then I've also seen a few things on people trying to wrap their mind around how blockchain could benefit real estate too. I saw a couple of queries on this news outlet thing that I've kind of subscribed to, and people ask questions like, how could it benefit this? How could it benefit that? Certain things. And one of the things that I saw was how it could benefit real estate.
Sure. Now, we looked probably at a dozen or so real estate directed projects. The problem with this particular space is it's not a technology problem, as you know. It's a silo and interest group problem.
Yeah.
So, and you don't necessarily solve that particular piece of it with blockchain. Obviously, I mean, every title, every deed should be on the blockchain.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not sensible to put this into some centralized database at this point in time.
Yeah.
Right? And specifically if you're in some developed countries where there might not be any centralized databases or it's just in paper form, all of those value creating entries should be in an immutable ledger, of course. And so, yes, it's absolutely sensible. But I think it will probably require some or more of the government entities to actually embrace this paradigm, because at the end of the day, they will govern whatever will be allowed.
Yeah, let me see if I can bring this
technology.
up. Yeah, so here's one right here. Blockchain in music.
Okay.
So what they kind of wanted to know was, let's see if I can open that up. It's not working.
Is that
for
frequently asked questions for me?
It's this it's from Haro, Haro.
Okay.
Oh, it's not going there.
Yeah, digital rights distribution is super interesting topic, and I've looked at, I don't know, probably 10 different projects in this space. And the one reoccurring theme is that the data that these entities are trying to access right now has entities involved that are not really prone to wanting to share them.
Well, okay. Well, so here's the general question: what problems can the blockchain solve for the music industry?
Digital rights distribution.
Okay.
Why? So specifically for what I would call the long tail, right?
Okay.
So you don't go up against BMG.
No,
you don't go up against Sony with this. If anything, they will build their own, but you don't approach them from the outside with your solution and suggest, hey Sony, why don't you put your collection on my blockchain?
Yeah.
I would not expect this to find open ears over at those enterprises.
No, it's like the electric car company going to Shell or Mobil gasoline company and saying, "Hey,
something to that extent." But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of utility to be had, obviously, for independent music producers, for someone who wants to reliably track what's being done with their particular rights, with their particular creations.
What are the top companies using blockchain to disrupt music? Or do we even know? Is that even?
I don't think there is one. At least I don't know. It's not something that we look at the moment, at least, because we looked at it early on and it seemed promising. And the more we dove down into that particular vertical, we realized that the problems are really not inherently being solved with technology at this moment in time. So you need to pick your battles, right?
Yeah.
And so
it seemed like a lot of these questions that they're asking, there's probably not a lot of answers for right now to be, really.
Right. And again, I mean,
it's just somebody that heard the word decentralized and thought, hey, how can blockchain fix that?
Blockchain and cheesecake, yes. It's always something new. Like 9 out of 10 times when I talk to people that want to put something on the blockchain, I'll tell them, okay, you really don't have a need for the blockchain or token. A centralized database will just do fine, or just use some of the existing cryptocurrencies for what you're trying to do. But there's just a lot of implementation where it's not the right time. Once there is a platform that facilitates this, like coming back to real estate, there, I would expect eventually there will be one blockchain that's just particular to the need of real estate. But then you probably want to take this from the angle of who has the most to gain, and so in this case it's probably the people that are actually selling the homes that are right now being taxed in a way with extra fees from middlemen in between. So if you're creating enough demand, enough inventory, again, comes down to platform effects. A lot of these projects require platforms, so also network effects. And since we still are about at 5% or something of world population users of any type of blockchain, i.e. don't even have a digital wallet. No. So how can you create network effects at that level? A lot of the utilities aren't there yet. So that comes back to you. Investing is about picking the right time. Yeah. Right. And so the time right now is for certain applications. And at one point in time, I guess we can do a separate recording simply about identity, which I think is a very interesting topic for the blockchain to solve for both the developing nations as well as the developed nations.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a good talk, and like always, man, enjoy hanging out with you. So let's do it again.
Same here.
All right. Thanks.